Welcome guys, welcome to this video. In this video we are going to work on Laravel job batching. So we are going to use the queue system, and what we are going to do behind the application, user will be able to use application, and in the background we will get the records from a CSV file and store in the database. You can have n number of records. So in this video I will show you 5 million records storing in the database. You can see here I have a database where I recently stored the 5 million records here, and let's see an example here. For quick show, I'm going to call 100k records for now, and I'm simply going to click open, and when I hit here submit, it is going to start its process. Now when it starts its process, it's going to give us the progress as well. So here you can see it's 10% complete. If I go to home page now and then I go to progress page now, it is going to continue because it's happening in the background. It's not going to get affected. You can go to any page and go back to progress page. It's going to load the progress where it is currently going on, because the application is not getting disturbed. It is happening in the background and it's keep on adding the records. So if I go here now and if I hit this, you can see that the records are changing here. So it's keep on adding these records there. And that is what, if I go to home page and then I do this, it's keep on adding. So let's see how we can do this and how we can add the records like this in the background using vuejs and Laravel. Alright guys, so I have few pages open here, and first is the Laravel queue. And then I have this page where you can download the CSV files for your project and practice. You can see there are up to 5 million records you can download here. Then we have Bootstrap, so we will be using Bootstrap in this application. It's from Bootstrap. Now also I have GitHub Axios, so we will be using this to deal with the HTTP requests. So to start with, first of all, what we need to do, we need to create a project. So I'm going to open the terminal, cd desktop. Alright, I clear the screen. All the links are in the description. Here I have the Laravel installation, and for that we need to run this composer command. So I'm just going to copy this command from here. I'm going to go to our terminal, and here I'm going to give this application a name. So I'm just going to call it Laravel. Alright, and I'm just gonna hit the return, so it creates a folder and gets all the files. So already we have our project created on desktop. So after that, once it is complete, we will go inside it and we need to run PHP artisan serve. So I'm just gonna copy this and let's see if it is done. Yeah, it is done. So here I say cd Laravel. Now here I say PHP artisan serve, and it is going to start the development server for us. You can see it's already running now. So if I go back here and I'm just gonna paste this, so we have our brand new Laravel application up here. So now let's work with this application so that we can have all the things working. Now for the code editor, we are going to use Visual Studio in this video. So I'm gonna open the project in this one. Now here, if I go to .env file, we need to say we have a database named Laravel. So I just say _app, and username is root and password is there's no password. So now if I go to localhost /php myadmin, and here we don't have that database, so we need to create one. So we say Laravel _app. Alright, and we just need to create it. So now it's here and we are all fine. Now I'm going to go back to the text editor and make sure that the name is exactly the same. Okay, now we have the add debug true so that we can see the errors. And now if I go to routes, we have web.php where we have a single route which is responsible for this page. I'm going to change it to home, and as I'm changing home here, I need to change the file name because it is powering from the view folder, and there is a view file welcome.blade. So this name should match. So I'm going to rename this as well. So it's going to be home. Alright, that's it. Now if I go here and refresh, everything should be working just fine. Now we need to clear our page here. So what I do, I simply go back to text editor. Here I'm going to go in this home.blade, and here inside the body, everything, whatever we have, I'm going to delete it straight away because we don't need it. I create a div with the class of container because we will be using the Bootstrap, so this is going to be useful. Now also we need to get the CDN for Bootstrap, so if, for that what I do, simply get the CDNs here on Google and Bootstrap CDN. So I don't know why it's not copying. I'm just going to copy here within our file. So here I'm going to paste it right there. Alright, so we have Bootstrap there. Now if I go back to our page, it should be white because we don't have anything. So let's add something so that at least we can see. So I simply say here home for now. Alright, so refresh, we have home. If I go to the website Bootstrap, you see this, you can select the theme, and we are selecting Minty, and then you come to this page. So we need the navigation, and when you like something, you want to use the component, just go and click on here, you'll get the code. So I'm just going to copy this code from here. As we already added the Bootstrap, it's going to work now. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here and we're going to create a component, Laravel component. So for that, in view directory, I'm going to create a folder with the name of components. Alright, and inside this components we are going to create a new component. I'm going to call it header.blade.php, and I'm going to paste this navigation there. The reason is we're going to call this header on multiple pages, and we will make changes only in this file, and it will reflect on every page. So we can include a component just by calling it. So I'm going to call here on the start of body, I'm going to call it, it's going to be add component, and you can notice the syntax is like this. You have add component and then end component. And here inside you need to define the components. So here it says components.header, and that's exactly it is, components and header.blade. So we need to get that. Now if I go here and refresh, you can see that we have navigation showing up there. So what do we need to do? We need to remove some things from here because we didn't want all those navigations as given by default. So let's correct that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in header.blade and I'm going to remove a few links. So first thing first, we have here nav bar, let's see. So here I'm going to say, right, and then here instead of home, I think home is fine. What we need to do, we need to pass the URL. So we pass URL like this. So it's going to bring us to home page every time whenever we click. And then here we want a page for progress. And currently we don't have any route for it, so we'll be creating that. And another page I want is for upload. Other than that, we don't need any other pages, so we can remove all this. So these allies, we don't need these. We don't need search, so I'm going to remove search as well. Alright, go back there and refresh. So we have a lot of similar thing going on here. Alright, so on the home page, we don't want much on home page. It's just going to be, and the reason is basically because we can see that user can use the application while data is transferred. So I don't want to do anything on home page. So what I'm going to do here, I'm simply going to put some text, and I'm just going to copy and paste the text to save the time. So I'm just gonna replace this container div with this. And here we need to say nothing, it's Laravel badging, and we can upload multiple. So you can see that, simple, just the text. Alright, now let's deal with the upload. So we need to go to upload page, and there we will allow user to upload, because that's the main reason of this application. So for that we need to create a route and a controller. So let's do that. First we go to web here, and here I'm going to say first of all I'm going to remove the comment so we have more space, and here I'm going to say route, and I want to have a route. It's going to be upload. Alright, so when user goes here, user will see upload controller, and it's going to be a class, and there are going to be an index method which is going to be responsible for the view file. Now, so let's create the controller. So I go in terminal, and I'm gonna go cd desktop, and then cd Laravel, as that's the folder name. And here I'm gonna say php artisan and make controller. Alright, and we have an error. So okay, I missed the method. It's gonna be a get method. Alright, so that's why it's giving the error. So we run the command again, it should be fine this time. So I'm gonna clear the screen first and then run it, and we get the controller. So we can go in app and then http controllers, and there is upload controller. Now here I'm gonna create a method for main page view, and it's gonna be public function index, and it is going to return, and this index method will return a view which is going to be the upload view. So we need to create the file. So in the views directory here, I'm going to create two files. First going to be the upload.blade.php. Also we will be working on progress, so I'm just going to create that file as well. So it's going to be in the views directory as well. So it's progress.blade.php. Alright, so first in the upload.blade I'm going to say here upload, and in progress.blade I'm going to say progress, so that we can see that these files are loading. So I'm just going to close these two files, and here in web I'm also going to create another route. I'm just going to copy and paste it here like that, and at this time it is going to be progress, right? And for progress we use the same controller, as it's going to be dealing with the file upload, and the method going to be progress. So currently we don't have this method, so let's add it. So here simply for file upload process progress, and it's going to be public method as well, public function, and it is going to be progress. Exactly the same way it is going to return the view. We already created it, so progress. Alright, so we have these two files working, so one /upload and /progress. So in our header now we can tell that when user goes to these pages, show those files. So here we can say URL. If user goes to progress, so take user to this route, and if it goes to upload, then we want it to take to upload. Alright, let's see what happens. So we go back to home and it stopped. Okay, so I need to run PHP artisan serve. Somehow the server stopped, so now it is up again, and we refresh. We are back. Now if I click progress, we get a progress page, and upload controller does not exist. So this is happening because we haven't included it. If we web.php here on top, we need to say use app, then HTTP controllers, and then upload controller. Now this should fix the issue. Refresh, we get progress, then we go to upload, we get upload. So yeah, these two are working. So let's deal with the upload. So we go across the home and header. All we need now is the upload.blade. So let's deal with that. Now in this file we need to create a form, and the rest of the content will be exactly like the home page. So I'm gonna first copy everything from here, close this, and paste here. So now if you see, we will have the header on top, and then we will have a div with the class of form, and then we have some text here. We don't need this text, we just need a form. So I create a form here so that it generates the token. Now we need to have a div, and div with the class of form group. Alright, in this form group we need to pass here an input with the class of form control. I want to give it a call MD6 so that it won't take complete width, and yeah, and also here on the form I will pass class row. So here this is not going to be type text, it's going to be type file, and we need to pass an ID as well, so that if we need to work with it. So CSV file, and then at last name, and I call it CSV file. Alright, now the same way we need to create another, and this time it's going to be a button. So I'm just going to copy paste here, and inside it we just want to change the type to submit, and the class to, we can say btn and btn info. I also give it a class of submit. That's a button. Now ID and name. So for now I'm just gonna make it empty. We don't need it for now. And here in the form we need to do some things here. First is action. So here we will be defining a route. We don't have a route currently, so we will be dealing with that. And also we need to pass here a method. So I'm going to pass method post, and another thing we want to pass here is ink type, and that's going to be multi-part form data so that we can process the file. Now in action we need to pass here a route, so I say route, and we can pass here route name, and I'm going to show you how we can do that. So it's going to be process file. Alright, so this is the route. Now, currently if I go and refresh, it's going to give us error because we don't have this route. So if we see here, you can see that process a file not found. So we need to define this route. So let's do that. So we go to web.php, and here we define this route. And for that, I simply say here route and it's going to be again sorry, it's a post because we are posting here, and then I want here upload / file. Now our file controller, the main upload controller, will be dealing with everything here, so we can call it again upload controller class. Then we need to pass a method here, and I'm going to call this method upload file and store in database. A bit long. Now here we need to define a name, so at the end of this round we can pass name something like this. All we need to say name and pass the name. So we have process file. So this is the name that we are calling there. So in here, and now this is the route which is going to be called. So now we don't have this function, so let's create this function. In here, go here and say public function. It's gonna receive request. So say $request. And then here I also want to add the comment, and here we want to say great. Now here I want to use try statement, so that we, whenever we face error, we throw an exception. So here catch, going to be exception $e, and here I'm going to say log error $e. You can further put get message if you want to, something like this. But what I want to do, I want to pass it complete $e, or you can also pass dd so that you see the error. So we can do this too. Now, as we're using exception, and this is on top, we also need to pass a use log. So as we're using log, and now here we can deal with the upload. So let's see if this fires. So here I say dd here, and let's see, go back and refresh. Now if I do here select, I'm gonna go inside the data, and I'm gonna select 1000. So I select this file and then I hit submit. We get here, so that means we are going to this function, so we can deal with this. So for getting the file, what we need to do, we can check what we are getting from request. So here I simply say $request all, and now if I refresh, resend, we get a token as well as CSV file. If I open this, we have the data related to that file, so we can process our file from here. So what I do, I simply remove this, and I'm gonna say if $request, and we want to check has. So if it has, as we just saw that it does has the CSV file, so we can work. So this condition needs to be true in that case, and we will go inside this. So we have a file, then we want to do something. So we say our file name, and what is going to be $request, and we want to get CSV file, and we want to get its name. So we want to get, and to get the client original name. Alright, and this is how you take the file name. Then we need to move this file. So we say $request to move a file, I call the file first, and then I call move on it, and here I define the path. I simply say move it to public path. So this is a Laravel function, and here I say go inside uploads directory, and comma, and file name with this file name. So it's gonna move the file there. Alright, and now there is a thing. When we upload the file, we should check it before if it is uploading, or so if it is there already, then don't upload it again. So what we can do in that case, we simply put a condition here. It's gonna be if and the file exists. So alright, this is the method, and what we want to pass here is we need to what we can do simply by just call here a variable. So I say $file with path, and here we want to call this public uploads, and then dot column, and then at the end $file name. So if this exists, that means file is already there, so we don't need to upload it again, otherwise it is going to keep on uploading. So paste here, and I say if not there. So if file is not there, then move the file. Otherwise there is no need, because we already have the file, so we can get the extract the data straight away. Alright, so which should do the trick. So if I go back here and refresh or resend and go in Laravel, here we go in public, we have uploads, and there we have the employee with the 1000 records, a CSV file. So now as we have file, next time when we run this function, it's going to check, okay, file is there, it's not going to upload it again. So for checking that, go back, submit again. So there should be only one file, so you can see that it didn't upload again. So we go back to the code. Now what we need to do, we need to get the data from it out of this file. So let's do that. So here I'm going to set a variable for header. I'm gonna put null because we need to have some default values. So here, data from CSV. So what data we receive, it can be an empty array for now. So because we are not reading CSV currently, then we say here, let's read the CSV, so we get records. And to read the CSV, I'm going to use a PHP function array underscore map, and here the function is string get CSV, and the second parameter going to be file, and there we need to pass the path and the name of the file, so that we are storing here file with path, so we can pass right here. Alright, now let's see what we get out of it. So we just gonna copy this and item here, and if I refresh, resend, we get 1001 records. Each record has some data in it. So the first is the title. So here the first array element is the header. So if you see here, we have the name, first name, last name, and the second is the original name and detail of the employee. So what we need to do, we need to extract that header and make it in a way so we have like first name, then name, last name, then last name, something like that. Let me show you what I mean. So we go back here, and we need to first of all remove this, and I'm gonna for each rearranging the data, and I'm gonna say for each I'm gonna pass $records as $record, and then here what we want to do, well, as by default we are saying header is null, so we can check here. So we can say if not null, all right, it's not header. We can say like this. Then we want to do $header equals $record, and then here else we want to put in $data from CSV, it's an array, and we want to put that record here. First time this loop runs, it's going to say, okay, the header has null value, it's going to put value in it. Then header is not null, it's going to go in else every time I'm going to put in here. So we have the first array element as header, so it's going to put in $header. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to dd, and we can see what is happening. So we can say $header and also CSV data. So paste here. Now you can see I'm doing it outside the loop, so we should get the data. Now here you can see the first element was header values. So we have first name, last name, and then we have the data of that particular person. So initial first array element is just the titles for each field, and that's the header. So if I refresh now, resend, now if you see, this is the header. So all the titles are separated. Now the array is of exact 1000. It's not of 1001 because we separated the header. And here we have the each individual person's data. So what we can do now, we can combine this data. So what we can do, and also there's this 1000 records that we will be processing. So I want to do it at every single time when we process 300 records each time. You can set any number of records, but to make less pressure on your code, we can do something like this. We can use chunking here. So let's see how we can use it. So simply, I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna say here breaking data. For example, 1000, or let's say 10K to 1K each, or 300 each, something like that, if you get the point. So here basically what we need to do, I'm going to define array chunk. It's a method from PHP, and what it does, it takes the array, so we want to pass this array, and then it takes how many values you want in each array. So I want to pass 300 for now, and I want to update the exact array. So here I'm just going to put it in this array. So now if I go here and dd, you will see we won't have the 1000 records. We will have 300, 300, 300, and 100. So it broke that in 4. So now it will be easy for PHP to process. PHP will process here first 300, then another 300, then another 300. So this process will be small as compared to working on 1000 records straight away. So here, what we can do now, I'm going to use for each loop. So I say for each, and I'm going to pass this variable as, and also we need to use the index here. So as index as in, I'm going to call it $data CSV. Now inside it, what we can do, we can see each employee. So if you want to looping through each employee data. So here for each, and here as a $data CSV as $data. All right, and here what we want to do, I want to create a brand new array here. So I'm going to say here $employee data. I'm going to put the index here, $index, and then I want to have the array underscore combine. Let me show you in a moment how this all going to work. So it's going to be array combine, and here we're going to combine the header data and the $data. All right. So okay, let's see, if we go here and inside it we see that each employee's data is here, the name, first name, last name, email, and if you remember we had the header that tells us which is first name, which is last, but we don't have it here. We need to combine it here. So for example, here is the email. Instead of 6 it should say email, so that we know, okay, this is the email. So we can do that using array combine. So we need to loop through each employee because we need to combine each employee's data. So that's why we are doing that. I loop through each 300 employees. So here we are looping through 1,000 or 300. In our case we defined 300 employees. Each. Alright, so when we are looping through this, then we are going here, and then once we are here we are looping through each employee, and then we are putting that data here. So if I get this and DD here, this time we should have the header values in front of here. So let's see, refresh, resend, we get this, and if I go to each value, now you will see that we have the first name and then the name, email, then the email, and this is happening for each employee. Any record you go inside, this is joining it, because array combining is getting the header and attaching it to the data of each employee, and then it is putting inside this employer array and employee data array, and then we DDing it. So that's how it is working. Now comes the interesting part. Now we will be working on storing this data. In there we will be using queues. So here, if you see, I separated this in 4 parts. So 1,000 records coming, it is going to give us this way, 300, 300, 300, and 100. If you pass 10,000 records, it's going to be 300, 300, 300 so many times, and then it is going to be working each time using 300 records. So it's not going to be a lot of pressure for PHP. Now we're going to use queues so that we can use our application and everything works behind. So if I go to the documentation of Laravel here, and here there are a few things we need to create a table. So we have here PHP artisan queue table, and we need to run this command. We need to run PHP migrate. We need to change the database connection to database, queue connection to database. So let's do this. So we go to our app in text editor. I go to env. There we need to look for queue connection. It says sync here. I'm just going to paste database because we are going to create the database connection here. So we will be having a database table for our queues. Now let's run this command. So here I'm gonna go into new tab, and here we're gonna run this command. So it's gonna create a migration file for us. Now once we have the migration file, we can migrate. So PHP adds migrate, so it creates the table. So we just got it. Let's go to the database. There we have Laravel app. Now we have here failed jobs. So any job, if fails, going to have the detail here. Other than that, we have jobs. So this jobs is created by the command we ran. So I'm calling it queue, and here we say queue table, but it adds the jobs table. All right, so all the jobs going to be here. And after this, what else we need? Migration. Yeah, REST all is good so far. So what we can do now, we can work with queues. So for that, here in the documentation it says if you want to do Redis, we are not doing that for now. We're just going to use the database queues. And if you scroll a little more, you will see the create job. So we have another command to run, PHP artisan make job, and then process podcast. Now we will be naming it a bit differently here. So here I paste here. Now in our case, we want to name it process uploads or something like that. So I call it instead process podcast. I'm going to call it, we are dealing with the employee data, so let's call it employees. So employees. All right, run the command. We have a job created. Now this job you can find inside in app directory. So here, if I scroll up in app directory, now you will see a folder named jobs, and there you will see the process employee. Open the file. I will see we have process employee, dispatchable, we have a constructor and a handle. Now here we can set the data. So if I go back to the controller, so here we are dealing with the data. So we can pass the data to our job, and there we can work. So for that, what we can simply do after this for each, because this array is going to be once first time it runs, it's going to pass 300 records. Second time it runs another 300 records, because we are looping through here each 300 records, if you remember. So here we can call this process process employees. All right, and here we can dispatch it. So it's going to be dispatched. So if I go back to the documentation, so here we have the dispatching job, you can see. Then here in Laravel documentation, we are dispatching a job. So the same way we're going to dispatch in our code. So we have dispatch, and each time we are dealing with some data here, so we can pass this data into here. All right, and as we are passing the employee data, we can get the data there. So if I go to process employee, simply on top, I'm gonna create a variable. So it's gonna be public. I will call it $employee data, and here I say $employee data, whatever we are receiving, we are going to set to this variable. So we say here $this employee data is equal to $employee data. All right, now we can access it inside here, and then we can use that. So here simply I'm going to run try statement here as well. So then I'm gonna say we are calling it inside the okay, so we are calling it inside try statement already, so we don't need to do the try statement in here. It's already inside try statement. So I'm just going to remove this, and here what I'm going to do, we're going to for each, and I'm going to say $this employee data as $employee data, and here we can process. Now we need to save the data in the database. So if I go back to the browser, and there we have the, if I say here we have we don't have the table for employees, I haven't created it. So let's create that so that we can store the data. So for that, we need to create a migration file. It's going to be PHP artisan make migration create employee table. Hit it. Now we should have this file. Let's go inside this file. So it's in Laravel directory, database, migrations, and the latest one. So we have employees migration created. Now let's add the fields that we need in this. So basically what I want to store is the name. Nothing more for now. If you want to store something else, you can do that. But for now, I'm gonna just pass name. All right. So we save the name because we have a lot of data. So it's just gonna get the name and kind of put the name for each employee. Then we have timestamp. Now we don't have the model for this employee table, so let's create that too. So go back here, PHP artisan make model employee. Now spelling should be correct. It's make model. Now if I go back to the employee, let's see where it is inside models directory. So models employee. Now here, I say first of all protected $table. So we are telling this is a table and it's employees, and also protected $guarded. It's going to be equals to empty array, so it won't create any issue when we insert data. So guarded is there, or you can define fillable, and then inside fillable you can define the fields you want to add data in mass assignment. So we have the model now. That's great, and now we can use the model to store the data. So we first need to run the migration, so let's do that. PHP artisan migrate. All right, so we should have the database now, table. Now employees with the name and timestamp. Perfect. Now let's go back here. Now close this, and here inside this loop, what we need to do, we need to call the new employee. So this is the model we are calling, and here I say $employee. All right, and in employee we just want to set the name. So it's going to be name, and then we can put the name here. As we are getting the employee data here, now first we need to see what data we're getting. So we're just going to command this in. And here in constructor, because we are receiving data here, we can dd this. So here I simply say dd, pass here, and if I get a controller, we are calling it right here. Here we can simply remove this dd. We don't need this one. And all right, let's see what happens. So if I go back to here, refresh, resend, we're getting this data. So 300 records, and each record has each individual employee. So if I go inside, if I go here, so when I do the for each loop, we get into this array, and then we can call these details straight away. So we are storing the name, and there is a lot of data we can store, but I'm just gonna save name for now. But what we can do here, we can join the first and last name, because we have here last name and also the first name. So let's join and insert that. So what I do here, $employee data, and here we need to pass first name. We can get it from here. Simply just going to copy from here. So capital F, and then I need a bit spacing in between. And here I'm just gonna copy this, and here we're gonna say last name. So if we see here, last name is exactly like that. Yeah, so it should work just fine. All right, so here once this is done, we want to say $employee save. So this is gonna save it. All right, now we don't have employee class imported, so let's do that. So on top, use app models, and then employee. All right, so it should do the trick. We have our process completed. We need to remove comment this one out, and it should save the data. So let's see if it is working for us. And yeah, all looks fine. Let's see what happens. So if I go back here and let's do it from start, I refresh, and we have 1000 CSV selected. I say submit. Now it goes to white screen. Now I go to Laravel app, and here we have jobs. We have 4 jobs created. Employees, it's not going to be because we are not processing the jobs right now, but we have 4 jobs created, and these jobs created because of this. So it added these, dispatched these jobs, and added in this jobs table. Now to run these jobs, all we need to do, we need to go into the code terminal, and we need to run a command. So for that, I go and open the text editor website, and in Laravel website there is this command php worker or work to run the workers, and this is going to run those jobs. So I'm just going to copy this command, go back to the text editor, and okay, now we go back to terminal, and I paste this command and run this command. Now this is processed, processing process. So it processed the commands. If I go back to application, these jobs should be gone from here because these jobs just processed here. So what we'd say here, if I refresh the page, you can see it's gone. So if I go to failed jobs, we have successful jobs. That's the reason we have no data in failed jobs table. Now if I go to employees table, we should have data. So you can see that we have the 1000 records added straight away with the timing, and we had 4 jobs defined, and those jobs completed. That's the reason those jobs does not have here anymore. So let me show you one more time what we do. So I go back here this time. Let's deal with some more data, and for the notification here, what is happening after this, I say echo job. Let's say jobs added, because it's giving us a white screen. That doesn't make sense. So let's do this. Okay, so I refresh here. I go and select this time. So we can select up to 5 million, but that is going to take time. So I'm going to select 10K for this time, and 10K users, employee data, submit, job added. Now we go here, we go to Laravel app, jobs. We have more jobs this time because 10K are divided by 300, so we have more jobs. Now if I go to here in terminal, you can see that as I ran the command already, so it's processing those commands already. And if I go to the Laravel app, employees, you will see we have the 11,000 employee data. So it's already completed that. So if I go back here, you can always check that if your job's working fine by checking failed jobs table. If there's nothing, that's good news, and your jobs table is now empty because all the jobs are done, and now we have the 11,000 employees stored, and that's great. And that's how I do it. Now we need to also work with the displaying the progress when it's working, and for that we are going to use the batching. So if I scroll up in the I need to go into the queue page here. So any topic you want to navigate, you go just here and click there. That's quite easy. So we have job batching here, and we can define job batches. And for that, we need to use a batchable trait. So we need to use this, and then we can define a batch. And in batch, we can define like, for example, we are processing 300 requests a time. We can put like this, 300 each time. And it's going to run and dispatch the batch. It is going to give us ID, or you can get the complete batch detail. And using that batch detail, we can show the progress. Alright, so working with batching, first of all we need to run this command to create a database table. And here I'm gonna say Control-C to stop this processing for now. And I'm gonna run the command here. So once I run this, it creates a migration file. We run PHP artisan migrate. Now, if I go back to the database, we will have the job batches. So now we will be having a new batch whenever we will be dealing with the data. So it will come here, and through that we can get. So you can see here we have table column like total jobs and pending jobs. So we can calculate like how much time it is going to take, and how many jobs are done, how many jobs are not done, something like that. Failed jobs, everything detail is here. Alright, so let's deal with this. So if I go up here, let's go straight up. So here where it says job define batchable jobs, we need to use this trait. So let's do that. So in our code, we need to go to the process employee. On top of it, before dispatchable, we put the batchable. Now batchable, as we need to include it on top as well. So this trait is gonna be useful. All right, what else we need to do? So if you want to cancel it, you can do it this way. And we need to define a batch like this way. So if I want to define a batch now, in this in our case we can use this method. So let's do this. So I'm gonna call this inside our controller. So here we need to use this batch. So I'm gonna copy this. Also we need to use the bus, so let's copy both of these. Go back to the code editor. And here we need to go to controller, and on top of it I'm gonna call this too. Great, so here where we are calling the employee queue, and I'm just gonna comment this. Before this loop, I'm gonna say bus, and then inside this bus there is a method with name of batch, and I'm gonna pass an empty array to it, and then I'm gonna say dispatch. Alright, and here I'm gonna say $batch. So when you dispatch this batch, put the value in here, the detail of it. So here inside this loop, we can add data like this. So that can get inserted right there inside batch array, empty array. So here what we can do, we can call this queue like this, a new process employee, and here we need to pass the data that we are passing. So just like that. Alright, so it adds it, and yeah, this should do the trick. Now if you want to see the details, now we are saying jobs added, we can return the details here. Return, and what I say, dollar batch and ID, or let's say return dollar batch, so that we see what detail we get all together. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all we need. So, and I go back here, and this time when I hit submit, you can see that it returned an ID. It's returned total job 0, pending job 0, the data created at options empty array. If I go to the tables here, Laravel app, job batches, we have total job 34, pending job 34. Now we don't have queue worker running, so it's still pending, it's not proceeding anywhere. So if I do this, it's not going to do anything. So for that, we need to work with the queue worker command so that it runs. You can see now it's processing, so if I refresh here now, those pending jobs will be getting less, and that's gone. So all the data is inserted in employees, 10 or 1,000 employees inserted. So that's a success. Alright, so now we have the data and the ID coming here. Using this ID, we can get the data information from the database. So we can say, alright, so what batch is running, how many jobs are done, get this data, and we can display that. So what I do, I go back to the code editor. Here we are returning the batch. I'm going to put the value in session so that we can each time whenever we can get a batch ID, we can use it on every page. So here I say session, and in session I simply put the value, and I'm gonna call this last batch. So the last batch we work with, so it's going to be dollar batch ID. So we need this. So here we can also add a comment just to we update session ID every time we process a new batch. And here where I'm returning, what I'm going to do, I'm going to return user to the progress page. So currently when we upload it, we submit, it is going to automatically redirect to progress page, and there we can also use query string and a session, both approaches. Let's see both. So I say redirect, and here I'm gonna pass the /progress, question mark, say ID equals, and here dot, then dollar batch ID. Alright, it's gonna go there. I'm gonna send user there, and user will see the ID. Now in the progress, let's go to the file. So here progress.blade, currently we don't have anything, so first I'm going to get everything from upload and paste here. And now we can change, because we don't need a form here. I can remove this div, and we need to work with, so for the progress page we want to use the vuejs, so let's do that. So I'll go back to here where the body is ending. Here we can add the script tag. So I say script, and it's going to be type text and then /JavaScript. Inside it we are going to run the code, and I need to copy and paste the CDNs we need to save time. So here I do that, and we paste it like here. So here we have the Vue.js 3 for the development, also for production. So if you want to upload the project to production, you can comment this one and comment that one. And yeah, we have XUs. So of this page here, we will be using XUs to work with the route. So when we want to get and send data, so we will use XUs through vuejs. So we are calling that, and then the script tag for our code. So let's work with this. Now here, what I'm going to do, first of all, I want to bind the app, and for that we need to give the main container of this an ID. So I say here ID app, and to bind the app with Vue.js, we can say here view dot create app, and here we want to pass a constant. I'm going to pass a constant like app. We're going to create in a moment. Dot mount, and here we simply say ID app. Now here, this constant we need to create, so we simply create here constant app, and this is going to be equal to an object, and here we will have data, and this will return further object where we will have some values. So here you can have, let's say, progress, and I put here a string. So I say welcome to progress page, something like that. Then I also create page title, camel casing, and here I say progress of uploads, and we also need the percentage of progress. So progress percentage, by default it's going to be 0, and at last I want a perms. So we need to get the ID from URL as we are passing the query string. So it's going to be null by default. Alright, now as we are passing these progress as these strings, we can display these here in our app. So let's do that. So here simply what I'm going to do to check if our Vue.js is working, we say h2 here. H2 tag, and here to display the variable from Vue.js we use at and curly braces like this, and then you want to display this sentence, so just copy this and paste inside it, and it should render it. So here HR, then again we want here H5, inside it at page title, the another variable that we have here, this. So let's go back and refresh and go to progress, and you can see that we have those two tiles rendering through Vue.js. So yeah, that's working. Now we need to create the area where we put the progress bar, so it's going to be HR again. Now for progress bar, I go back to the boot swatch. Alright, here if I scroll down, you should see the progress bar, and here we have animated one. We're going to use this one. This is the maximum feature. With the maximum features, I copy this code, and here I paste this code. Alright, looks good. So we have here some classes, then we have role, I'm gonna break it to a new line so we can see it easily. Area volume. Okay, it looks like this. Now if I go back to our app here and refresh, you can see we have the progress bar. It's 75% filled because we have the width 75 and value now 75. If I change it to 60, it is going to be a bit less. So here, if I change 60, now if you want to display the percentage inside, you can also pass here. So if I say 60 here as well. So let's see how it looks. It says 60 here, or you can also pass the percent, so 60%. All right. If you reduce this to, let's say 40, and refresh, you can see it's 40. It reduced further. Okay, so let's work with this. Now what we need to do, we need to get the data, and according to that we are going to get the data related to. So first of all, we have one data present in job batches, and we're going to use this data, so we can proceed. So here in data, I'm going to say comma, and then methods. And in methods, we need to create a method that's going to be check if ID present. This is the first method we create. Now, when we upload a file, user will be redirected here, and if you remember, we are setting a query string here, so it will be having an ID in URL. But what if user doesn't come from upload, it goes to straight away home page and then progress page, so we don't have any ID here, so we need to check that. So for that, what we are doing, we are simply let's go back to progress page, and here this function will deal with this. So I'm gonna put a code here for JavaScript, and that's going to get us the URL. It's gonna get us the URL params. So here, if I say console.log params, all right, and we need to run this function when this page loads. So for that, we will go here and we say created lifecycle method from vuejs, and we say this function. This function will fire. So we are going to see console log now, and here I'm gonna inspect console log. So currently nothing, but what we want to do, we want to see the params. So what I do simply is go back, minimize this, go back there, and pass question mark ID equals 12, and refresh. So you can see here object ID 12, and then we can say some other number, hit that ID that. So we're getting the ID here straight away. Now if I remove this and hit return, we get empty object. So here we can put a validation based on this. Alright, so let's do this. If params.id, so if we have the params.id, then what we want to do, we want to set this .params.id. Now this is from here, so it is null now. We are setting it to params, which is this variable .id. So if there is ID, we are setting it to view variable. Alright, that's great. So what we want to do now, I want to create another function that's going to deal with this. So what I do, here I say get upload progress. And what I want to do, I want to run this function instead of the checking function, and this check ID function will run inside this function. So here we say this function, run this first, and this function will run and set up this ID, and then we can get the progress. So here we say get progress data. So here I'm going to say let progress, let's call this response. Response is equal to, and what I want to do, I want to check it every second. So I'm going to say here set interval. So they're going to be an interval of 1 second. You can set up as many seconds you like. So every 1 second we are going to check. And here we're going to say XUs dot get, and I want to pass here, let's call it progress slash data. This is going to be the route for it. Then what do we want to do? We want to pass the params. So we want to pass the ID because we want to get data for that particular ID. And here we're going to pass that. Then we're going to say then if we receive any response, say as a function, and the function going to have response. And then what do we want to do? Okay, for now I say console.log response.data. Okay, so the response we get, just pass here. Now we need to pass the ID here. So let's call it params. And it's going to be an object, and that's going to be ID. It's going to be equal to, now we are getting the Axios, and inside if we pass this, it loses the access to this. So what we can do, we can define the local variable here. We can let self equals this. Now we can use self instead, or you can call it anything if you want. We can use self instead of this now, and it will work. So we just self dot params dot ID. So it is getting the ID of this, which is a setup here. So we are passing this ID. So we say if this ID is present, we are going to use ternary operator here. Then we say pass this ID. Alright, otherwise if we don't have this ID from the page top, we want to check for session. If you remember, if in the upload I also added this value in session. So every time we process, we are putting last batch in session. So if we don't get the ID from there, we can also check the session. So here I'm going to check the session. So I get a progress played, and here simply to use the session value, we simply put double quote, and then here we say session, and then we say get, and we need to pass the name and the name of this value, and we pass it here. If we got the understanding, basically we are getting the ID from the URL. If it is not there present, then we are getting it from session, and we are passing it straight away to this progress data. Now we don't have this route, so let's deal with this. So here I'm going to create on the route. It's going to be get route. Pass this progress data. And I'm using the same controller for everything as it's the same process. So upload controller class, and let's call the method progress for CSV store process. All right, I can also define a name here, and let's call it CSV store progress or process, anything you prefer. This is the method. We don't have it right now. Let's go back to upload controller, and here public function, and here request $request. And we also pass some documentation here. That's about it. So what we need to do here, we can put here try catch, so that we face any error, we get a log. So here catch and exception $E, and here log error $E, or IDD also, so we can see the error for us. All right, now what do we want to do here? We want to get the data from the table, from the Laravel app, from this job batches table, but we don't have any model that is dealing with this. So let's create a model, because we need to talk to the database. And yeah, so what I do, simply I go here, stop this, PHP artisan, and then I say make model, and I'm gonna call this model let's call it job batch. And what just happened unexpected? Okay, in the web I made some mistake there. Semicolon is missing. Sorry about that. Now go back to terminal. Clear. And we have job batch. Now let's go there. In models directory, job batch. Now here, first thing I want to define is the table name. So here, protected $table equals, if I go back to database, it's job batches. And also protected dollar guarded equals to empty array, so that we won't face any mass assignment issue. Now we can call this job batch in our code. So here, where we need to use it, here we can say simply job batch, and here we can say where. Now we have the access to ID, so we can check the ID. So what I do, first I put the ID in a variable. So I say a $batch ID, and I'm gonna say a $request, and here you can get the ID, or get the ID from session, because we are also putting in session. So if you remember, in session we can say session get, as we added the value in session here with this name, so we can try to get that name here. Just gonna get the batch ID, and what we want to do, we're gonna say, using this model where ID equals this batch ID, we want to count. Alright, and this, if it is more than 0, this statement is going to be true. If it is true, then we can get the some response. So I say $response is going to be, I put this in back here, and here this time I want to get the data, so I say here first, let's get first, and whatever we get, we want to pass return it as JSON. So we say return response, and then JSON. We'll simply put $response in it, and this will return it. Alright, so it looks all good, it should work. Now let's see, if I go back to progress light, this function will fire. It is going to get the ID, it's going to pass this ID. We are getting that ID using request here. If it's still not working, we are getting the session ID. Now to show you, we can pass the session here. Either you can skip this from here because we are doing session here. It's just to show you that you can do it that way as well. So once you have the batch ID, you are just querying here. If the count is more than 0, that means it's true. Then it is going to get and return the response. All right, and here we are checking console logging that response.data. So let's see what happens this time. So if I go and refresh, and let's go to network and response. Okay, first error, we have the class not found job pad, so we need to include it, and let's do that. So go back here. On top we need it, so use app \models \, and now if I refresh and go back here, let's go console log, we are getting empty string, which is also not right. So it's happening every second. So what I do, I go back to progress.blade for now, and here I'm gonna comment this. So this happens only once, but once we have the data, then we see what we do need to do. And here in upload, let's see if we are getting the data. So first I'm gonna see if we have the batch ID present. So here dd $batch ID. Okay, let's see the batch ID, if we are getting the batch ID. So if I go back here and refresh, we get 500 and it says null. So go back here, that means we're not getting the batch ID. So I do go to progress, and here initially when we are setting this, so here we can say console.log, we can check for this perm ID, because here we are setting that. So simply put that here. Also we can check if we have the value in session, so let's copy that too. So I come and pass here, and let's console log. So here I simply refresh, and that's a null, that's an empty string. So we don't have value in session, we don't getting from URL, so that's the issue now. So what I do, I simply delete this, and we have employees. I'm gonna make this table empty for now, so we will have everything from scratch. So we have employees empty, we have field jobs empty, jobs empty, and at last we have job patches empty. So what I want to do, let's upload a file from scratch. So I go home, upload, and we get a file, 1000 CSV records, submit, and this time you can see we get console log both the IDs are here. So this console log return this ID as well as session ID. So that now we have value in session, so 2, so it should work. So I'm gonna remove this, and here in upload, now we are deleting it. So let's refresh, and network 500. You can see we are getting the ID there too. So yeah, it should be fine. So if I move this and console log. Let's see here, refresh. Okay, call to undefined method response. Okay, it's a spelling mistake, sorry about that. Let's correct this. So where it's here, response, and we can refresh, and this time we have 200. You can see we're getting the data. Now as we're getting data, we can display this data accordingly. You can see here we have the finished job 0, ID here, and also pending jobs and total jobs. So what we can do, basically we can calculate the job, like how much percentage is done. So let's do that. I go to progress.blade, and here where we have the response, here we need to place some logic. So here, let's do that. So okay, so what we do, first thing, we have response.data, and that is showing us this data. So if I say response.data.pending jobs, we will have access to this 4, and response.data.total jobs, we will access to this value. So let's do that. So here, what I'm going to do, first things first, I'm going to say let total jobs. All right, and it's going to be parse int to make sure it is in an integer. So I say response dot data dot total underscore jobs. All right, and so we have total jobs. Now we need to complete jobs. So we say let completed jobs, because we know pending jobs here and total jobs, so we can find completed jobs. So for that, we simply do parse int to make sure it's an integer. I will pass here total jobs, or we can simply say, because it's already parsed, and so it's a total jobs minus pending jobs. So I'll simply copy this and put here. Alright, so completed jobs is like this. So we will get the data here. Now if we say if, we can say response. Now if we are going to use multiple time of a thing, we can put it in a variable. So I need to use the pending jobs again, so I'm going to put here a variable for it. So let's say let pending jobs. So I'm going to call this there. Just cut it and paste it here. Now what we want to do, we want to use this pending jobs here. Cut this. Now I can also call this pending jobs here. So if I say if pending jobs equals to 0, that means all the jobs are completed already. That means the process is done. So we need to update this variable. You remember we created a progress percentage, so it's a 0 right now. So we're gonna say here self dot this is equal to 100. Okay, now we need to make sure we have self defined on top, otherwise it won't work. So yeah, it's 100. Now else now what we're going to do here is that we're going to say the same. We need to calculate, because this variable is going to be responsible for the progress slider, this to work with this number is going to be calculated from there. So this is going to be you're going to say here parse int, And inside it, I'm going to say completed jobs. So I'm going to copy this and divided by total jobs. So total jobs, we are calculating the percentage here, and it's going to be multiplied with 100. And then we're going to say to fixed 0. So it's not going to have any point value, it's just going to be a whole number. So that's going to be it. And for now, if you see, we have pending jobs 4, total jobs 4, so it's not going to make a lot of difference. But once we have a big data set, this is going to display. So let's put it, if we face any error, we will correct it. Now here, what we do, another thing I want to check is if this is this percentage is 100. So for example, this slider goes to 100. We want to stop checking, because here, if you remember, we have this set interval which is going to check every second, and it is going to increase accordingly. And once it is 100%, we want to stop that interval. So here we say if parse int, and I'm going to pass here self dot progress percentage. All right, if it is more than or equal to 100, then just simply stop the interval. So it's clear interval, and we pass the interval name. So here the variable we define. So paste here inside it, so it will stop it. Otherwise it will keep on going, and then it's going to create a problem. So yeah, so we have the data coming as we want, and it should do the trick. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to test it first of all. So I'm going to bring the interval back, and here now all looks good to me. We have everything at place, and it should. Alright, let's check if it works. So what I need to do here, first of all, I get it home, and we go to app here, job batches. We have a single, so I'm going to remove this so that we have everything from start now. So jobs is going to be empty as well. Alright, so Laravel app, we have so far no job batches. Now what we need to do, we need to make sure the queue worker is running. So let's have the queue worker running. Alright, refresh, upload, select a file. I'm going to select 100K this time, so it will take some time. Submit. Alright, it is doing it. You can see that pending jobs are getting less each time, and yeah, it's working as expected. That thing that we made okay, so we need to correct some thing here, because what is happening, it's doing it, but we so far not updating our slider. So let's update the slider here. So let's do that. You can see that we already redirected to this page with the ID, so rest everything is working. Let's see if it clears the slider as well. So it's gonna be, yeah, it cleared. Now it's complete. All right, great. Now what we do, we update the progress bar here. So let's go back here, progress bar. Now we define these variables here. We need to pass these variables up top. So the first is this progress percentage. So I go here, and for now I'm gonna stop the queue worker and go back here. And here we are showing this. So here we need to pass the value. First of all, the percentage where it says 40, I'm gonna pass progress percentage like this. Inside the style, we need to increase the width, so you can pass the using backtick. So you need to pass backtick like this, and and then this, and here instead of 40 you will say dollar, curly braces, and inside percentage. So it should work. Now here we need to pass it as well, and colon in front, so it should be suffice. It should do whatever is required. And now if I go back, it should give us the progress. So you can see it's 100%, and this 100% is because those are already done, the ones already done. So you can see that pending is 0. So let's redo it. This time 500k records. So jobs are done. Yeah, employees. So we have 100,000 employees here. I'm gonna truncate this too. And before doing anything, make sure the queue worker is running. So we're on this. Now I go back here, home, upload, and then brand new file. I'm gonna get the 500k CSV, open, and submit. You can see the progress is down to 4%. If I go to home page and I go to upload page and then I go back to progress, you will notice it will come to 7%. It's not starting with if you go to home page, and if I take the database out, and here we see the jobs are getting updated. It doesn't matter what page you're on. So if I'm home page, upload page, it's keep on going in the background. So that's 15%. I'll go to home page again, and here let's keep on updating. So you can see that we have a proper progress bar here, and it's doing it in the background, so you can have your user allowed to use your application as they want, and the progress bar is working. Everything is working, and this is the power of queues and batching in Laravel. Right, so all the code for this video is available for download. I'm going to process the 5 million records, and the sample going to be you can see it will be from now. In a moment I will show you. For now we just see that it's this successfully. So far we have around 1,000 jobs here pending. So the jobs, basically, if you got the understanding, we have the based on 300. So if you like we made chunks here, so if you have a different number, the job count will be different, so you can play with that. Now when you be working with your computer and doing this in your computer, you might face few issues with some memory limitation or file uploading limitation, so you might need to change some settings there. So I have here a text created, so we need to basically update these in your PHP INI, or you can use for temporary basis this in your PHP script. So I'll leave this note as well as in the description so you can use it. So yeah, hope you like this video. Do subscribe, share, and leave your feedback so that get more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and let's see it completes.